Primary night in Arizona.
Two main issues: freedom of choice for women,
the homeless situation.
The results are pouring in.
Primaries can be very hard to predict.
12 News, dedicated to bringing you the most complete election coverage. With 12 News journalists live at campaign headquarters across the state.
One word to describe this race, it may very well be combative.
We go in-depth on the most contested races. The Republican U.S. Senate primary between Carrie Lake.
Never, ever stop fighting for Arizona.
And Mark Lamb.
I think I'm the proven conservative fighter.
The winner takes on Ruben Gallego in November.
And I think we're seeing a preview of what Congressman Gallego will run on. We're talking about seniors, Latinos, and moderate voters.
The congressional districts that can swing control of Congress.
I am somebody who has stood up to the extremists.
And the local primaries that can impact your community. County sheriff, recorder, attorney. This is the night. These are the votes that take us to November. 12 News Decision 2024 coverage of the Arizona primary begins right now.
And good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for 12 News special coverage of Decision 2024 and Arizona's primary election. A big day across the state, lots of important races. Voters head to the polls today to pick their preferred candidate, the person they want to move forward to the general election.
And a night, no matter where you stand, left, right, or independent, we all practice the truly American practice of democracy, of making our voices heard. And that's what's about to unfold as we wait for the first unloading of votes coming up any minute now. We should start to see some results coming in. So let's take a look. The big race that we have tonight that we're keeping our eyes on, not just here in Arizona, but nationally, the race for U.S. Senate. And on the Republican side, pretty much as expected so far, it's Carrie Lake out in front of her challenger, Mark Lamb, the sheriff, and Elizabeth Ray trailing far behind at 5.9%. On the Democratic side, it is Ruben Gallego, the congressional representative, running uncontested. And he, of course, has 100% of the vote because he's running unopposed.
Yeah, let's look at U.S. Representative for Congress. This is District 1 right now. This is on the Republican side here. David Schweikert is the incumbent. He is being challenged, though. We have two candidates there, Kim George and Robert Backey. But right now, Schweikert at 63.1% of that vote. All right, let's move over now to the Democratic side. This is a very crowded race here. You can see we have multiple candidates. At this moment, it looks like Amish Shah is pulling in the top votes right now. So 24.2%. Again, this is still early, and the votes are still coming in, but these are some of the preliminary numbers.
All right, let's take a look at CD2. It is largely rural, but includes the communities of Flagstaff, Sedona, and Prescott. Also Apache, Coconino, Graham, and Greenlee counties. And it's Eli Crane, the incumbent, leading Jack Smith easily. He has now been declared the winner at 77.5%. So Eli Crane has a date in November against Jonathan Nez, the former president of the Navajo Nation, running unopposed.
All right, let's move on now to District 3. This one covers parts of Phoenix, Laveen, and Glendale. On the Republican side, we have Jeff Zink right now pulling in 65.2% of the vote. And Jesus David Mendoza right now falling quite a bit behind. Okay, on the Democrat side here, we have three candidates. We have Vice Mayor and former council member Yasemin Ansari. She has 46.7% of the vote. Coming in behind her is Raquel Tehran. It was expected to be a pretty close race between the two of them. And then Valley physician Dwayne Wooten right now is trailing behind both of those candidates with 11% of the vote.
And the big story over in the 8th Congressional District, who replaces Debbie Lesko? This is parts of Maricopa and Yavapai counties, including Glendale, Peoria, and Sun City West. And you can see it's a very crowded field. Abraham Hamada up on 29% over Blake Masters. Both of those candidates endorsed by former President Trump. Ben Toma coming in at third. Also, Patrick Briotti, the newcomer, at 2.6%. On the Democratic side, Greg Whitten running unopposed.
All right, let's move on now to our state Senate races. This is District 1. We have Mark Fincham. He is pulling in 44.5% of the vote. Ken Bennett behind him is the incumbent. Some very interesting numbers on that coming in right now, 37.2 for Ken Bennett. Now, on the Democrat side, we just have one candidate here unopposed. That is Mike Fogel, and he has 100% of the vote.
And in the state Senate for District 7, it is Wendy Rogers leading David Cook, 53.8% to 46.2%. And on the Democratic side, as we take a look, Haley Creighton leading Roberto Reveles.
All right, Bram, our 12 News political expert in studio with us now. And Bram, as these numbers are coming in and we're reading them, I hear some sighs and some sounds coming from you.
some wows.
Some wows and surprises. Yeah. So I know we went through a lot of races, but let's start with the top. Senate, yeah.
Carrie Lake leading Mark Lamb by 13 points. She needs to beat him by 10 points or more just to make it clear she is the Republican candidate. That's a pretty good showing by Carrie Lake. We might have expected a 20-point margin. She has some doubters among Republicans who don't think she can win the general election against Ruben Gallego, who will be waiting for her when the dust clears tonight. So that is a good showing for Carrie Lake. Could be better, but I think it might calm the naysayers a little bit. Some of those other races, we showed you LD Legislative District 1 and Legislative District 7 at the end for a reason.
Okay.
Ken Bennett, well-known former Secretary of State, former state lawmaker, a current state senator, is being defeated by Mark Fincham, who has his fans on the far right. He lost the Secretary of State race 2 years ago. He's come back and now is based in Prescott. He moved up there from Oro Valley, and it looks like he might defeat Ken Bennett tonight.
Which would be very, very surprising, I think, because let's point out that Mark Fincham was one of those who had big doubts about the outcome of the last election.
Big doubts, but this is in the Prescott area, very conservative area. Fincham rejects the results of the elections. He is far to the right. Ken Bennett is paying a price in that district for trying to be a moderate, relatively speaking, within the Republican caucus in the Senate. He cast some votes that upset people, was a lone wolf in a couple of instances, and it appears now he's paying the price. Now, we also showed you, if we can put that up, LD7, Legislative District 7 in the state Senate, where Wendy Rogers was leading, there it is, leading David Cook by 7 points. Got sharpened my math skills tonight. 7 points. That is one of the toughest challenges Wendy Rogers has faced. She was under fire for supporting a fellow candidate who misled voters about his service record, which is a pretty serious offense in a lot of minds. It appears Wendy Rogers is going to survive. Can we go back now to CD1? Are you able to roll back to the 1st Congressional District?
Yeah, that covers.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
See, and let's go to the Democrat. David Schweikert expected to win in a cakewalk there. He advances to November, 7-term congressman. This is going to surprise a lot of people. Amish Shah, former state representative, he didn't do his campaign the way most people do. Did you see an Amish Shah ad on TV?
No.
I don't recall,
I don't think so. No. Did you get an Amish Shah mailer?
No.
If you live in his district, that district, I don't think so.
I saw a lot of Connor O'Callaghan.
But Amish Shah.
How do you explain this then?
Yeah.
I love this kind of story because I've seen it before in Arizona. Amish Shah did it the old-fashioned way. He out-hustled everybody. It's not over, but he out-hustled everybody, went door to door in that district. And it appears he's going to reap the benefits tonight by advancing to take on David Schweikert. I want to add one thing as we look at these results. It's very difficult in a primary when we don't have much visibility on how many votes were cast to figure out how many votes are left to count in that primary. It's not a large number, but it's probably a significant number that might allow Andre Cherney to make up the difference. In a general election, I could tell you there aren't enough votes left or there are plenty of votes left. In a primary, low turnout, it's unpredictable. I can't tell you where this race stands right now. And I'm not sure yet. I hope Colleen Sikora, who will join us from the elections department a little later, can tell us how many of the early ballots have been counted, because typically at this point, 8 p.m. on election night, they have counted most of the early ballots that were received as of Friday.
And Arizona, known as a state that loves to vote early by
yes.
mail.
Yes, most voters do it that way, 80 to 90% in some cases. So here in Maricopa County specifically, they usually have a large number of the early ballots counted by the Friday, could be 80%. So that might be a lead that's too much for Andre Cherney to overcome. We just don't know. But it is significant. Amish Shah, who did it the old-fashioned way, in the first blush, first look, is in the lead.
What is Amish Shah's background?
Amish Shah is an emergency room doctor. He served in the legislature for 2 or 3 terms. Was known for being somewhat independent, maybe a little too independent for some of his Democratic colleagues in the legislature, but that fits the profile of this district. This is a district, it's one of the wealthiest districts in the state. This is where they look for moderate candidates on the issues, especially on financial issues, money issues, taxes. And Amish Shah does fit that profile.
All right.
Can I? I'm just going to ask this to the control room. Can I ask one more question to Bram before we go to Chase Golightly? Maricopa County Sheriff, a little surprising.
Did you hear me over there when I saw those numbers?
I don't know if we can get that graphic up, but it is surprising.
On the Republican side.
Jerry Sheridan running away with it right now.
I'm shocked. I almost don't believe that. I can't explain it. I'm speechless. I can't.
So Jerry Sheridan.
This is his second or third run.
Arpaio, correct?
Just some background.
Joe Arpaio's former number 2.
Yes.
At some point, they sort of fell out of love.
Oh yeah. Yes, in a big way.
And he has come back with a vengeance here on the Republican side over Frank Milstead, the former head of DPS, who a lot of people thought would be the one with 50%.
Well, and Frank Milstead was endorsed by Joe Arpaio. So the only explanation I can offer is one of the kind of themes tonight that we're looking for, which is the Trump Republicans striking back. Frank Milstead is not one of them, though he may try to be. Jerry Sheridan is probably closer to that profile than Frank Milstead is. That is my guess, I underline guess, at what's going on here. It is puzzling that Frank Milstead would do so poorly. I will add this, which kind of touches on what I said about Amish Shah. In a lower ballot, down ballot race like this, you really need to work it. You really need to work it, get out there. When I had Frank Milstead on Square Off, he told me he was working it. And, you just don't know how hard they're working. But let's pause for a moment here, because this is another stunner.
On the Democratic side, Russ Skinner, and while we're waiting to get that up, here it is, who is the current acting MCSO sheriff, trailing Tyler Camp.
Wow.
I've never seen you speechless like
I
this.
know. I don't think I have either.
I told you, I said earlier, primaries are unpredictable.
You said it was completely unpredictable.
We have nothing to judge what's going to happen. Yeah. No polls, low visibility, down ballot races.
Okay.
On both sides. I would say here's what I would offer for this. And this was a real oddity of this election, in the sheriff's race in particular. Russ Skinner and Tyler Camp were Republicans as of about 10 minutes ago. They both changed their registration to Democrat after Paul Penzone resigned in October.
And you said that was the law, right, Bram?
Well, Russ Skinner, who was Penzone's number 2, in order to be named the interim sheriff, only Democrats could apply.
Since Penzone.
Since Penzone was a Democrat. You had to be the same party as the person, as the elected official stepping down. So they changed their registration to Democrat.
All right, here's another race, Bram, that is Skinner got highly watched.
Camp, I will say this about Camp. Camp was supported by the Maricopa County Democratic Party. So that, I'm guessing, would have helped him in that race.
Okay, and here, Maricopa County Recorder, maybe one of the most important races of the night that will fly under the radar for a lot of people, because we're all focused on the Carrie Lake and Mark Lamb races and some of the congressional races. But if you are a resident of Maricopa County, this is a huge race, and this is an unusual and maybe unexpected, or maybe expected, Bram, because a lot of people blamed Stephen Richer, the incumbent, for what happened in the last election.
So earlier today, I wrote a story for online that this election is all about the future of elections. And you see it in the Maricopa County races. Maricopa County oversees the elections here. The county recorder has a piece of that, early voting, voter registration. Maricopa County Board oversees the day of elections. You know, they've taken a lot of heat over the last 4 years, a lot of heat, death threats. And more. It's been really rough going as they try to fend off the people, raising all kinds of concerns. They might be well-meaning, but in many, if not almost all cases, they're wrong. Stephen Richer, I don't know how many ballots are left to count. This doesn't look good for him. One last thing I'll say in parting.
Okay.
Stephen Richer was defiant. He had a come-and-get-me attitude. He even went as far after the debate, the recorded debate, saying he would vote for Joe Biden. And that was before Joe Biden stepped aside. So he was going to do it his way, and now we might be seeing the results.
All right, Bram. Okay, we were going to listen in to Sheriff Mark Lamb. It looks like he just left the podium a minute ago. Are we going to still go out to Chase Golightly? Okay, so we've got Bianca Bono. She is out live at the Carrie Lake watch party there. So we're going to head out live to Bianca. And Bianca, what are spirits there? Because we're just seeing the numbers coming in. And right now, Carrie Lake has 53.3% lead over Mark Lamb's 40.7% lead. So what are the spirits like there?
Guys, as you can imagine, spirits are very high here. As soon as those results were announced to the room, there were loud cheers and applause. It's really interesting because oftentimes at election night watch parties, you see on the big screens on the side of the stage, they have a local newscast up there that's showing the results come in live. That's not the case here, which is probably not too surprising. But instead, it was one of Carrie Lake's team members that came out on the stage and announced the results to the folks here, her supporters here. Before that happened, we saw a lot of people right around 8 o'clock. It got pretty quiet here. Folks were rushing to their cell phones, trying to get to the website and trying to find the results themselves. But again, once that announcement was made up on the stage, spirits completely rose. In fact, they think that it is a night. They are celebrating like Carrie Lake has locked in this victory and are already focusing the conversation here on Ruben Gallego, the Democrat that she would face in November, of course. But again, spirits very high here. And not only were spirits high for Carrie Lake, they also went through some of the other Republican winners in the early results that came down. A couple notable ones, Justin Heap, as you guys were just talking about, running against Stephen Richer for Maricopa County Recorder. A lot of Heap supporters here in this room. Eli Crane got a big round of applause as well. So very curious to see if we're going to see any of those candidates make an appearance tonight. We're starting to see the actual program begin. We came in around 6:30 this evening or so. It wasn't until about 8:10, 8:15 that we actually saw speakers taking the stage. So it's been a lot of waiting very anxiously for these results. Now that they've dropped and they've gone Carrie Lake's way, it's time to celebrate here. I want to note that a lot of people are celebrating with Carizona margaritas. That's what they are serving here at a couple of the bars around the stage. But what we're starting to see now, we saw Reverend Jarrett Maupin give a prayer at the beginning. Somebody came out and sang the national anthem. They did the Pledge of Allegiance. Now it's different folks from Carrie Lake's team coming up and talking about ways that folks here can get involved in her campaign as they move towards November. So we have not seen Carrie Lake just yet today. We certainly expect to hear from her. We're told maybe around the 9:30 mark, but no question she's going to come out and celebrate with her supporters tonight. When I talked to her earlier this morning when she was out in Paradise Valley casting her vote, I asked her, why do you think voters are going to choose you over Mark Lamb today? She said she thinks it's her 30 years of experience, almost 30 years of experience working in television news here in the Valley. She believes that Arizonans know her, they know her personally, and they believe that she believes that they think she is a fighter, someone who's going to fight for them, not only here in Arizona, but if she gets the opportunity to do so in Washington, D.C. So again, very curious to see what she has to say tonight. No question she is excited about this initial drop of results. Her team knew that they needed to have an early lead. Otherwise, it may have been considered a loss even if she came out on top. But she has been the front runner from the beginning. So these results, frankly, are no surprise to her team. But again, we look forward to hearing from her and see what she has to say this evening. But confidence was high this morning. I'm sure it's through the roof right now. Guys?
Yeah, I'll bet, Bianca. And NBC News projecting Carrie Lake to be the winner of this this primary race on the Republican side. All right, Bianca, thanks so much. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit.
Let's continue our coverage now with Chase Golightly, who is at Mark Lamb's watch party. Chase, I know we missed Mark Lamb speaking a second ago. What did he have to say?
Well, Mark Raby, he was just saying, hey, these initial results are coming out. It's not what they wanted, but they're hoping that some sort of big change will come. But as soon as those initial results came out, the crowd got a little bit quiet once they saw those numbers come up. It's obviously not what they wanted, but Sheriff Mark Lamb knew that this was a real possibility going into it. And in fact, he's joining us right now. Sheriff Mark Lamb, we're live.
Are we live?
We're live right now. Thank you so much for joining us. We know those initial results came out. It's not what you obviously wanted. Your initial thoughts at this moment, sir?
Oh, look, I'd like it to be better, but I also understand that there's always a winner and a loser. There's a lot of votes to be counted still. We're hoping that we'll be strong on some of the more rural areas. And there's a lot more votes to count here in Pinal County. It's one of our strongholds. So, yeah, we're still very optimistic. Obviously, we'd like to be a little bit closer, but still a long time to go.
Definitely.
A lot of votes to count.
Definitely. And just looking at this vantage point right now, you and I were talking about earlier about, everyone has hindsight about what they could have done. At this moment, is there anything that you wish you could change from your last year and a half campaigning?
No. We talked about this today at my house. My wife and I are just, we think that we did everything that we could do. We ran the race we wanted to run. I could have certainly made more waves, but I chose not to go that route. I think it was important to make sure that we brought the Republican Party together, brought the state together, and we tried to run a race like that. And we're happy with the race we ran. Look, they stacked the deck against me. Everybody was stacked against me, and yet we're still right in this. So I don't have any regrets. I think we've done it the way that the voters would have liked to have done it. And, in the end, if it's not, I'm not the person they choose, then that is what it is.
And then like you were saying, you were seeing this as a job interview. You didn't want to go and attack Carrie Lake or the Democratic ticket. You were saying you were trying to run on what you want to do for the state of Arizona and for the country. But also going back to that debate, you and Carrie Lake were supposed to take the stage together, show your differing views. You have similar views in political realms, but like you said, you have the experience, and you said Carrie Lake doesn't. Do you wish that debate took place? Do you think if you guys did have that debate, this maybe could have turned out differently for you?
No, yeah, I think we should have had the debate. I would have liked to have had it. I think it would have been an opportunity to show the difference in experience, but at the same time, I understand her move. It was a good political move on her part. And so I have no angst about it. It gave me an opportunity to stand in front of the people and talk about the good things that I felt like I could do for the people of Arizona, the experience that I brought. And, like I said, it's a job interview.
And we know, again, these are initial results. Nothing's been finalized at this point. But if it does turn in Carrie Lake's favor, will you support her as the Republican candidate?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that all the way along. I think that where we've got to be in this country is along the lines of the Republican Party, what they're pushing right now. And I think most independents feel it. And I think a lot of even the Democrats are uncomfortable with the direction we're heading in our country. We've got to get some change. And so flipping it the other way. And we need people that are going to protect God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. And if it's not me, then it'll be Carrie Lake.
Now let's talk about, again, we know that things still need to be finalized, but just kind of talk about your future. Like you said, you're still going to be sheriff of Pinal County until the end of the year. Any future plans for you at this time?
Yeah, look, we were ready to, we had a long-term plan, and our long-term plan was to get into the private sector. I've still got to support a family, and I've loved being in law enforcement. It's been a blessing. We made a decision to run for this race. We understood that one of the risks is you might lose, but there is no reward without risk. So we were willing to take that risk, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter. But I still got another 6 months as a sheriff, and I'm looking forward to actually still going strong, serving the people of Pinal County, and hopefully transitioning Ross Teeple into the position of sheriff.
There we go, sir.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add at this point, just about the election, about what's going on here today, looking for the future?
Look, it's been an honor to be in front of all the people in Arizona running for this office. Truly has been an honor. I've met so many great people along the way. And, it's been a true blessing to be in this arena. And I just want the best for Arizona and America. And I got in the arena on behalf of it. And if it goes my way, great. If it doesn't, it's the way it goes.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Gotcha. Thank you. No, you're totally fine. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Sheriff Mark Lamb just saying a few words of the situation going on here tonight. Again, disappointed. Initial results still coming in, still waiting to see what happens, but he said he's, just going to move forward from here, and we'll see how it goes. And like as you just heard, he said if Carrie Lake is confirmed to be on that Republican ticket going into November, he said he will support her and accept the election results here tonight. But we'll go ahead and send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right. Sheriff Mark Lamb trailing Carrie Lake right now by about 12% with the votes that have already come in. All right, Chase, thank you. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Election officials said earlier that no election is perfect. However, today does seem to be running fairly smoothly. We have not heard. Yeah, thank goodness. We haven't heard of any major issues going on at any of the voting centers. Right now, we're going to toss it out to Colleen Sikora. She is at the tabulation center. And Colleen, how are things looking there?
Yeah, good evening, Caribe. Good evening, Mark. We're actually standing by here with Supervisor Bill Gates. They were talking about how things seem to be going very smoothly. You and I were just talking just a second ago of how this has been very smooth.
Yeah, it really has been smooth. Just all the credit goes to the incredible people who work here in Maricopa County elections. And we're just thrilled. People had over 220 vote centers to go to across the county. We had about 74,000 people show up in person, vote in person. And then at this point, we don't know how many people dropped off the early ballots, but you're certainly allowed to do that. So we'll see that later on in the evening. We'll get a sense of what that number is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to talk with you more about turnout as well. Obviously, 74,000, less than what you guys anticipated, I believe 94,000. Are you anticipating that could be made up in early ballots, or is it just too soon to tell?
Yeah, it's too early to tell. Again, it's an estimate. Every election is different. Frankly, we didn't have as many contested primaries, particularly like in the statewide races that we did in 2022. But again, that's a good, healthy number, and frankly, a little bit more consistent with what we saw before 2020 and 2022. So those had spiked a little bit, and this is kind of more similar to the general trend we've seen over the past few decades.
And as a part of this 8 o'clock drop that we've been talking about throughout the show, 550,000 of these early ballots that were dropped off, ahead of Election Day. Obviously, these were all tabulated by Friday evening. Tell me about what this drop is like.
Yeah, so that drop, like you said, around 550,000. So these were early ballots that were either dropped off or were mailed in, starting all the way back on July 3rd when the recorder first sent out the mail-in ballots. So, like I said, that's all of those. And we're very fortunate. The state legislature changed the law over the past few years, so now we're able to go ahead and tabulate those so that we were ready to put that big number out. A significant percentage of the total votes that were cast in this election were out by 8 p.m.
And a lot of work still left, a lot of work happening right now. Something new for this election is that these early ballots that have been dropped off today, those late earlies, as you guys tend to call them around here, that were dropped off today, have to now be counted in their green affidavit envelopes before they're removed from the vote center and brought here to MCTEC. Tell me about that process. How's that going so far?
Yeah, so this is the first time that we're required by law. We did kind of a test run with the presidential preference election. But for everyone who dropped off those early ballots today, we have to, before we can even, bring down the results on the memory cards of people who voted in person, we have to go through and count up all of those green envelopes. So once we have completed that, once we have a total number for that vote center, then the vote center can be completely closed down, and then a bipartisan group, a Republican and a Democrat, will bring down the memory drive. They'll bring down the ballots themselves, and that memory drive will be placed in the server here, will be installed in the server, which is not connected to the internet.
A lot of work still here left tonight. A lot of work in these late hours. How late are you guys anticipating to be here?
Oh, we'll be here into the wee hours of the morning. Like I said, we know there's 74,000 votes that were cast in person, and with all of this work done, and we know how large Maricopa County is, so we'll get that in. We'll start seeing results later this evening, start seeing those being added, those in-person tallies. And then as we go later into the evening and into the early morning, then that'll be completed. And then later we'll also be able to give an estimate to all of you on the number of late earlies that were dropped off and are yet to be, of course, signature verified, processed, and finally brought over for tabulation. So what we're estimating is we'll have at least about 95% of the total votes counted and reported by this Friday.
A lot of processes that you guys are going through, but as you and I were talking earlier, really your focus right now is on accuracy, not speed.
Yes, that is always number one. Accuracy is always number one. You can see we've got close races. We always have close races. We got to get this right. Having said that, we understand that people are going to be paying very close attention to a lot of these close races. So we've done certain things here within the law that we've invested millions of dollars here to help speed that process up a little bit. So hopefully our folks will see that as we move forward this so we can complete it and be in a position for my colleagues and I and the Board of Supervisors to canvass the vote on August 12th.
Supervisor Gates, thank you so much for your time. Obviously a busy night here, and we will of course be checking back in throughout our coverage this evening, but for now we'll send it back to you, Mark and Caribe.
All right, Colleen, thanks. Well, they say money makes the world go round, and nowhere is that more true than in the world of politics. Those with the heavy pockets tend to win, and we may be seeing that tonight with Carrie Lake. Let's go to Will Pitts, who is tracking that right now. And Will, when it comes to fundraising, it wasn't even close between Carrie Lake and Mark Lamb.
No, not at all. There's three different categories we look at. There's how much money they've raised, how much money they've spent, and how much cash they have still on hand. This is how much they've raised. Carrie Lake raised $10 million for this primary so far to Mark Lamb's $2 million. So obviously outraised Mark Lamb by quite a bit. In terms of spending, Carrie Lake has spent $8 million of that $10 million. Mark Lamb spent almost everything to get where he is right now. Cash on hand, that leaves Carrie Lake with $2 million, Mark Lamb with $260,000. Here's why that matters. Because when you go into the next race, that big blue chunk, that's Ruben Gallego. That's who they're going up against after that. Gallego with $32 million raised, again, to Carrie Lake's 10. So when you look on it right now, after you deduct everything that everybody spent, Ruben Gallego is sitting with $8 million that was basically free and clear. He doesn't even need to spend it. He was unopposed. He's going to the general election. Carrie Lake sitting with $2 million. Now she is in the same position that Mark Lamb was in, facing her. So there's going to be a lot of money still to spend and still to be raised in this race. But now Ruben Gallego is the juggernaut in this race with another $8 million of cash just waiting to be spent, guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Back here now with Bram Resnick. We have not heard yet from Carrie Lake, but we have heard from Sheriff Mark Lamb. He wasn't asked directly if he is ready to concede at this moment, but he did say that there are still votes that still need to be counted.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clear, though. He's moving on.
Yeah.
He can do the math.
Yeah.
This was not where he expected to be. His campaign expected to be a lot closer to Carrie Lake now. I would add, 53% of the total Republican vote, not that great. I mean, she defeated Lamb by quite a margin, but another candidate got 6.1%. And I would also add to Will's reporting there on the amounts. Don't forget, there are a lot of outside groups that pour money into this Senate race, and you can expect them to step in right now. The big question for Carrie Lake is she has not proved to be a very good fundraiser on her own. For perspective, Mark Kelly, who's run 2 Senate races in 3 years, he raised $100 million in each of those races. He is a prolific fundraiser. The question now becomes, will Mitch McConnell and the money he controls and other folks who control money for Senate races, will they now step in to help Carrie Lake? Because unlike in past years, Republicans don't need to win the Arizona Senate seat in order to regain control of the United States Senate. They don't need Arizona this time around. There are several other states they can pick up that will give them a Senate majority. Mitch McConnell is known not to be a fan of Carrie Lake's. One has to wonder how much of a fan Donald Trump remains after that episode of The Wired we all saw a while back with Carrie Lake.
Although he did come out just before the primary and say Carrie Lake's his pick.
But he also endorsed somebody Carrie Lake doesn't like, Blake Masters, who was running against the person she endorsed in CD8, Abe Hamadeh, who it appears is leading right now. So there might be some issues there.
I want to ask you about Randy Kendrick. Randy Kendrick, for those of you who don't know, is the wife of D-backs owner Ken Kendrick. And Randy Kendrick happens to be a huge figure when it comes to Republican fundraising. And Randy Kendrick came out and urged her power broker friends, the people with deep pockets, not to support Carrie Lake. It didn't work out.
It didn't work. I think Randy Kendrick is smart enough to know that it probably wasn't going to work. It was too late in the game.
Well, and I should say she said that because she didn't think that Carrie Lake could beat Ruben Gallego in the general election.
That's right. And that's a big question that lingers as we go forward now into the general election, whether Carrie Lake can pull this off. You know, Randy Kendrick did Carrie Lake no favors by sending that email out to her friend. Now here's somebody, a big fundraiser and spender on campaigns, is saying, hey, she can't win. That kind of gives the Democrats some ammunition here in firing back at Carrie Lake. It was too late, but it does reflect the sentiment among many large donors. Randy Kendrick also pointed out there is still the defamation lawsuit, the unfinished defamation lawsuit that Stephen Richer, the county recorder, filed against Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake admitted liability. They're now in the damages phase of that lawsuit, and in coming weeks or months, that could be litigated. And now we have Lake being declared the winner. Is that
yeah,
what
the Associated Press.
Associated Press.
Declaring her, Carrie Lake, the winner here on the Republican side here for U.S. Senate. We know that she didn't debate Mark Lamb. Now she'll be going up against Ruben Gallego. What are the chances you think that she will accept a debate to debate with him?
Don't know.
Has she indicated?
We heard her earlier today in response to a question from reporters. She said, well, it depends on who's running it, what the kind of terms of engagement are, how we're going to do this. So she's definitely not running into a debate against Ruben Gallego. I would add it is an open question how strong a debater Ruben Gallego is. He is a five-term congressman now from CD3. He's never really had a competitive race since his first one. This isn't the kind of thing he does, debating. So that would be a new
Has
skill.
Carrie Lake done a debate?
Perhaps a skill he has to sharpen.
Has Carrie Lake had a debate before?
Yes. How can you forget that PBS debate
when she ran
in the primary?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't really a debate. It was more of a free-for-all. That she said, this is like an episode of Saturday Night Live.
Listen, I don't think there's any question that as we get closer to November, the issue of abortion and women's reproductive rights will become a huge issue. And J.D. Vance, now Donald Trump's running mate, has made some comments in the past few weeks about women, single women and cats and all that stuff. And it's become sort of a hot point issue.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard Carrie Lake speaking on the abortion issue. Is she purposely trying to stay away from that?
Well, you will hear her speaking in ads that are going to be aired by Ruben Gallego and the outside groups that support him, because she's been all over the place. She is on record as saying abortion is murder. She's also on record as saying something along the lines of, should be a woman's choice, but at the same time we have to give women options if they might be thinking of having an abortion, options that might allow them, help them raise the child. So she's been all over the map, but she is definitely on the record as having a pretty hardline position on abortion. And at this point, the Republican Party, as we've seen, not just in Carrie Lake's case, but many other cases, does not know how to respond to this.
All right, Bram, thank you so much. Stand by. We're going to head out to the field once again. Ruben Gallego now knows who his opponent will be in the general election. We're going to head out to Joe Dana with more on that. Hey, Joe.
And Caribe, let's just say it, this was a formality for Congressman Gallego with no competitor. He now moves on to the election, but that doesn't make it any less exciting, really, for Ruben and his family. This is a family with a truly unique American dream story. You know, Gallego is the son of immigrants from Colombia and Mexico. As a congressman, he often talks about his humble roots, being raised by a single mother in an apartment. He worked at a meatpacking plant and on construction sites to help support his family as a teenager. Eventually went to Harvard, then served in the military. He will, you can bet, emphasize his personal story as a strength. He's also going to highlight his military record. You know, this is someone who can say, I serve my country, I've been overseas, and I know the stakes that are in play here. When you talk about election integrity, the rule of law, and some of these issues that really do separate him from Carrie Lake. A national democracy watchdog group of bipartisan supporters, including the late Grant Woods here. They just recently, they pointed out two people that they considered to be threats to democracy because of comments they've made about the elections. One was Justin Heap, who we are seeing potentially win the recorder's office. The other was Carrie Lake. And so Congressman Gallego will absolutely be discussing elections and the rule of law, and we are actually expecting him to come by our studios here tonight, so we expect to hear more from him. Just a few hours ago when I was with him, he was also with Congressman Greg Stanton, so they were together making the rounds, meeting with supporters, and now the real work begins for Ruben Gallego.
All right. Joe, thanks. We'll check back with you in a little bit. We are awaiting Carrie Lake, who's expected to speak at any second. As soon as that happens, we will cut away. But in the meantime, we want to go to Erica Stapleton, who's covering the GOP race for Maricopa County Sheriff. And a little bit of a surprise down there, Erica.
Hey, Mark. Honestly, the people here were not that surprised. I know we went through some analysis earlier, but we are at Jerry Sheridan's watch party, and as soon as that first result dump came in, it was cheers, applause. Everyone said, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. He's up at 50% while his two contenders are down in the 20s. And I want to bring in Jerry Sheridan right now. I know you've run for this before. You've been in this position. How are you feeling right now? And it looks like his family's coming in too.
We're feeling very, very good. It's taken a lot of work to get here, and I know there's going to be a lot more work in the next few months to make sure it happens and we take back our sheriff's office so we can better serve the people of this county, all 4.6 million.
And I know when we spoke earlier, you said you were cautiously optimistic. Of course, not all the results are in, but you are ahead by a handy lead here. What do you think this means, you know, going forward?
Well, a lot of work, and I'm not going to celebrate until the final vote has been counted.
And as you know, if the night continues to go your way, you'll be the elect in the primary or going into the general election.
Yeah.
What do you think your biggest challenge is to take on that seat?
Well, to get my message out, to make sure that people, all the voters, not just the Republicans, but all the voters in this county know that I'm the right person for the job. I have the experience. I spent 40 years at the sheriff's office. And so I know the things that need to be done, and I'm going to start working on it for all the citizens of this county, all 4.6 million. And I want to get that message out. I will be a constitutional sheriff, and that shouldn't scare the Democrats, because the Constitution protects everyone.
You know, to see where you are now, I want to bring something up. We know that you were Joe Arpaio's right-hand guy for a long time. Did not get the endorsement this time around. He went to Frank Milstead, but still your numbers are up. What do you make of that?
Well, I've been trying to separate myself from Joe Arpaio when I ran in 2020 and let people know I can stand on my own 2 feet. I don't live under the shadow of Joe Arpaio. And don't forget, in those 40 years, I worked for 4 different sheriffs. And so what I want to do and will do is take all the good things that they've taught me over the years and use them, and the bad things that they taught me, put them in the garbage can.
You know, we're still waiting on the final results. We're showing that Sheriff Skinner, who's currently holding that position, is trailing right now. Does that surprise you?
No, and because of the feedback that we've gotten, because he changed parties, to get appointed, and the Democrats were not very happy with that, and they didn't trust them. So I thought that Tyler was going to prevail in that primary.
And, you know, Maricopa County Sheriff is a challenging position. What do you think, you know, I know you've spoken about fentanyl in jails, drugs in jails. What would you do to combat some of those issues?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is put deputies back out in the desert south of I-8, where the fentanyl comes in. Most of it comes into this county and the country. And it was a very successful operation that we did for the 6 years that I was the chief deputy. And I'm going to bring them back out there to disrupt and dismantle the drug cartels, the human sex trafficking, and all that. And that's one of the first things that I'm going to make sure I do.
And one of the other biggest issues the office faces, we know former Sheriff Paul Penzone stepped down early from his position, saying he felt like he was doing his job with one hand tied behind his back due to the court monitor stemming from that lawsuit. What do you know, how will you take that on? I know you've had to work with the court monitor in the past. That's an issue a lot of people are concerned about. It's been a costly lawsuit. How do you plan to tackle that if you are, you know, if the night continues to go how you want it to go?
Right. Well, that's an easy question to answer because I worked with those monitors for 3 years. I didn't have the problems that Paul Penzone did. Paul Penzone had the problem, and it wasn't because of the monitors. It was because of the way he approached things throughout the sheriff's office. When I left, we had maybe 150 vacancies, and now there's 1,500 vacancies. And the people quit Paul Penzone not because of the monitor. They quit because of his lack of leadership. And I have that leadership. I spent 33 years of my 40-year career in a leadership position, 20 of those years in an executive leadership position. I've got a master's degree. I taught college for 22 years, and I taught law enforcement leadership classes. And so that's what Paul lacked, and I think that's what Tyler will lack also.
And I know we've been going around. I know the folks here are all excited, and I know we're getting close to that 9 o'clock drop, I believe. And you did address everyone earlier. Are you declaring victory at this point?
No, not until the last vote is counted.
All right. Well, Jerry Sheridan, thank you so much. Good luck to you the rest of the night. Appreciate you being here and letting us report live from here. But guys, we'll wrap it up here from Scottsdale. We'll keep you posted as those numbers continue to come in tonight.
All right, Erica Stapleton there live at the GOP primary for Maricopa County Sheriff. We are going to go to the opposite end of the ticket here, out to Jonathan McCall. He is covering the Democratic side for the race for Maricopa County Sheriff. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Mark Caribe, good evening. And according to the Associated Press, they have now called this race for Tyler Camp against the incumbent Sheriff Russ Skinner, who, as you mentioned, was appointed to this position by the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors earlier this year after former Sheriff Paul Penzone stepped down from his post late last year. But again, the AP calling the race for Tyler Camp in the race to face off against the Republicans for Maricopa County Sheriff in November. We reached out to the Camp campaign this evening. We called Tyler Camp's phone. Someone answered, said that he wasn't available to talk to us, didn't have a statement for us about the results or him being in the lead in this race. And the person who answered the phone said that hopefully we would be able to hear something from Tyler Camp or some type of statement, some type of comment about this race sometime tomorrow. So we'll definitely wait to see exactly what will happen with that. As for the other person in this race, that is the incumbent, and that is the current Sheriff Russ Skinner. We also reached out to him tonight, still waiting to get more information from the sheriff about his reaction, his thoughts on these results so far. Again, the Associated Press calling this race for Tyler Camp. As you mentioned, and as we have been talking about, this is a very critical job. This is the fourth largest jail in all of America. More than 7,000 inmates reside there on a daily basis, more than 80,000 passing through the Maricopa County Jail every single day. There have been issues for years with regarding to a federal court lawsuit targeting the sheriff's office that is mandatory, that they have to implement a number of reforms. There's also concerns with fentanyl getting inside of the jail, a big priority that was for former Sheriff Sheriff Paul Penzone. For the current sheriff, as we mentioned, Russ Skinner, a longtime Republican, switched party affiliations and was appointed to this position by the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors last year. Same thing with Tyler Camp, a former Republican, switching party affiliation to the Democratic side as well, but Tyler Camp actually getting that endorsement from the Maricopa County Democratic Party as well. But again, lots of changes here. We've learned that neither one of these candidates having any type of watch party. We do know that Tyler Camp mentioned that he was just going to be at home with his family, kind of watching these results come in. As for Sheriff Skinner, he says that he's been busy all week long dealing with election security, making sure that every ballot gets counted and everything went off without a hitch as well. Again, the Associated Press tonight calling that race for the Democratic side for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office for Tyler Camp at this point. We'll continue to monitor those results as they come in. We'll continue to work the phone, see if we can also get some statements from these candidates, as well as see if we can try to get a hold of Tyler Camp again, see if someone will be able to provide us some type of information. But we'll stay on top of it and let you guys know anything new that we learn. Mark Caribe, back to you.
Jonathan, thanks. 8th Congressional District for Arizona. Who replaces Debbie Lesko? A very crowded GOP field. Let's check in with Sean Rice, who's covering that race for us.
Hey there, Mark. We are at Carrie Lake's event. The reason we're here is because we're told the person who is leading right now, Abraham Hamadeh, would likely be coming here if this next batch of votes goes his way. As we showed you at the top, that first batch of votes certainly did go his way. He has a roughly 4,600 vote lead over Blake Masters. Of course, both men are endorsed by former President Donald Trump, but it came in a little bit of a different fashion. Trump came out early endorsing Abe Hamadeh, and then Blake Masters put some ads out claiming he was endorsed by former President Donald Trump. But in reality, that was really an endorsement that came back in 2022 when he initially ran for Senate. Then this weekend, Trump put out a Truth Social post, his very own social media platform, claiming that he then endorsed Blake Masters again. So he has endorsed both candidates. But just a moment ago, we heard a pretty loud round of applause when those initial results we just mentioned were read aloud here at Carrie Lake's event. That's largely because Carrie Lake is endorsing Abe Hamadeh in this race. If we can go to video of Abe Hamadeh, a little bit of his background. He, of course, ran back in 2022 for Arizona Attorney General. He, of course, lost that in that race, a very tight race, to current Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. We mentioned at the top of our newscast, this race can be defined by one word. We said combative. That really couldn't be more true. As you might recall, there's a lot of attack ads by both Masters and Hamadeh. Masters, of course, trying to frame Abe Hamadeh as, quote, dishonest Abe. Hamadeh then firing back, calling Masters, quote, too far left, and claiming he had too many connections to big tech. Their issues really remain the same in terms of what they want or what they think voters here in Congressional District 8 value. Some of those things are border security, election security, and the economy. Both men mentioning that inflation is just far too high for a lot of the voters here in Congressional District 8. We come back out here live to Carrie Lake's event. One note that I did want to mention, that I just got a text from Abe Hamadeh's campaign headquarters. They're telling me they believe that they're polling as high as 30 points ahead on same-day votes here in this district. So, as Bram mentioned a moment ago, if some of those votes that are already being tallied and we've received with that 4,600 vote lead, if those are indeed mail-in votes, Abe Hamadeh's campaign is certainly enthusiastic about how this may go from here. So he's still a little unclear on if he's going to show up here to Carrie Lake's event. He may stay with family, as he's done for most of today. We're told Blake Masters is with family today as well. So we're waiting on that next batch of votes, and hopefully Abe Hamadeh may show up here to Carrie Lake's event, and we can get you his reaction here live on 12 News. Back to you guys.
All right, Sean, we'll be standing by. All right, Bram, I want to get back to some of your reaction with Jerry Sheridan, who obviously leading the Republican side for sheriff. He made some comments about what kind of sheriff that he wants to be. What were your thoughts on that?
Jerry Sheridan threw out the phrase constitutional sheriff. That has a particular meaning among a certain group of sheriffs here in the United States. They're uniformly Republican. It asserts that they are the law. The sheriff is the law.
a supreme kind of law. As you would guess, that's a pretty controversial statement and might not be accepted by much of the voters of Maricopa County who he wants to represent. I also want to add what we see happening tonight with Jerry Sheridan, apparently now the Republican nominee for Maricopa County Sheriff. What we see with Maricopa County Supervisor Jack Sellers apparently losing, being drubbed. That's one Republican supervisor who defended the elections, gone. Stephen Richer might be facing defeat, someone who defended the elections, gone. Democrats are looking at this saying, hang on, we have a chance to win those seats. Sheriff, a supervisor seat, and maybe even recorder. So, and I say that because this has been the history of the last 3 election cycles for Republicans. Republicans have suffered historic losses in Arizona, 2 Senate races, a presidential race, statewide governor, secretary of state, attorney general. And the consistent theme is Republicans have not put up the best candidates. Democrats have countered with decent candidates voters would accept. It appears Republicans might be heading down that road again, and they might end up with the same result.
8th Congressional District, we were just talking about it. A very crowded field, a lot of nasty rhetoric-filled commentary, primarily between Blake Masters and Abe Hamada. Is there a point, because Masters accused Abe Hamada of being, I think, a terrorist at some point and showed images that would lead people to believe that he had some terrorist ties. Is there a point where no matter how far right you go, that's not fair? And could that be what we're seeing?
We don't know for sure, but I think it's a good observation because residents in CD8 out in the West Valley, and by the way, this is a safe Republican seat, so the winner of the Republican primary is practically a shoo-in to win in November. I know Greg Whitten, the Democrat, will have something to say about that, but it is a safe seat. But residents in CD8 were bombarded with street signs, with ads, frankly, that were Islamophobic. They were horrible. And it appears they've said, as you pointed out, you know what, we're going to ignore that. We don't buy that, and maybe we don't want that. I want to add, this is Blake Masters' now second defeat in 2 election cycles. He lives 120 miles away in Tucson, so if he's, absorbing his victory, he's probably far away right now.
And what becomes of people like Blake Masters if he loses, and it appears he probably will? What's next? He's already lost twice. What does he do for an encore?
Something else. Maybe another line of work. Blake Masters is close to J.D. Vance. Both of them are acolytes of Peter Thiel. In some ways, I'll use the slang, they're brothers from another mother, if you've heard that one. They both have very, very traditional views of marriage. He attacked Abe Hamada because Abe Hamada doesn't have any children. And Blake Masters said, you know what, if you're going to run for office, you need to have children because you need to have, quote, skin in the game. I know a lot of people out there would disagree with that, but that's Blake Masters' position. Also, J.D. Vance's position. You might recognize that from some of the things that the vice presidential nominee on the Republican side has said.
When you look at this lineup here, I mean, you've got, what do you make of some of these candidates that don't have experience over candidates that do? Because Trent Franks, didn't he have control of this district in the past?
Well, I suppose the irony here is that neither Abe Hamada nor Blake Masters have any legislative experience at all.
Over
Ben Toma, a very experienced Republican lawmaker. You know, if this were 10 years ago, you might have said, oh, Ben Toma, he's a shoo-in, House Speaker, got a strong conservative legislative record. He should win this district. Trent Franks, he was in office in Congress for several terms, had to leave amid a scandal of wanting to pay a staffer to have his child. Anthony Kern, also a legislator for several terms. He is far to the right, Christian nationalist. But Ben Toma in that group is probably what many people would think of as a traditional Republican, traditional conservative. Finishes third in his home district where he's been for many years. Likely he'll move on to something else, but it also is kind of a litmus test of where the Republican Party is today. One that, again, we've seen over and over the last several cycles.
Is it always There was a time when you could run on your beliefs and your ethics and stand on your record, and that would be enough. Now it seems that you have to be the loudest voice in the room to win.
Well, I think just to telescope back a bit, I think we're all familiar with the performative politics you see now. Yeah. You got to be loud, you got to be out there in general to win. You know, Carrie Lake, just stripping aside ideology, is a symbol of that, of what's happened in politics. You see that in Washington. You see that here at our Capitol. People thinking they have to be the loudest. They have to, you know, put on a show, so to speak, to get attention. That's what our politics have become. Is it encouraged by social media? Yeah, probably. You see a lot of it on there. It's how you excite people. And, you know, I can hear many people saying, but look at Kamala Harris right now. Mm-hmm. What's going on social media? Yes, she is using social media pretty effectively, putting stuff out there on TikTok, on Twitter, on sites I'm not even aware of. But that's where politics is today. Depends whether you stay within certain lines or go outside certain lines, I suppose. And
then in a race like the U.S. Senate race, which will be between Carrie Lake and Ruben Gallego, we're going to go to Carrie Lake, who is speaking right now, the presumptive winner tonight. Carrie Lake doing fist bumps out there, greeting her crowd in Scottsdale. And a big smile tonight from Carrie Lake, who has defeated Mark Lamb, the sheriff who was running against her. No one expected any outcome other than this, really, if we're being honest, on the Republican side.
Man, love you guys. Woo! Do we need some heroes? Do we need some heroes or what? Actually, I see a lot of heroes in this room. I see a few of my personal heroes. Floyd, I see you over there. I see so many members of my team who have worked so hard over the last 10, 11 months to make sure that we are running a great campaign for the people of this great state. Thank you for being heroes. How many of you are door knockers the last couple months through 115-degree heat? Wait, raise your hand if you've been a door knocker. Okay, honestly, those are the real heroes, because it's about 115 degrees, and they've been knocking on 900 doors every single day. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I see our donors, people who reached deep into their pockets. Some pulled $20 out, and that was difficult because, let's face it, we're living in Bidenomics, and it's not working out very well. And then there's people who pulled a lot more than that out, and I appreciate every one of you. You truly are American heroes. And I'm going to go real personal here with my favorite heroes, which is my husband, Jeff. I just saw him disappear somewhere. He's my, there he is, right here. Say hi to Jeff. He's awesome. I've met him in Arizona. I married him in Arizona, and little did he know that we would be on this wild ride. And he's been not only, he gets me around, he drives me, he protects me. This guy will protect me. This guy will protect me. If anybody wants to hurt me, he will protect me. And he's my confidant. He's happy to sit in silence with me. We've all had those long days where we just want to sit silently with someone, and I love you so much, Jeff. Thank you. And then my kids, you just saw my firstborn, Ruby. How awesome is Ruby? And you're going to meet my son, Leo, in a little bit. He's incredible as well. I'm just so blessed. There's so many heroes. But I think we all share one common hero. And I think I'm safe to say that we think of our favorite president, Donald J. Trump, as a hero, right? Absolutely. Somebody said Trump, Trump, Trump. I agree. Trump, Trump. Fight, fight. That's right. We got to fight for this country. Really, to be honest, I want to thank my friend, President Donald J. Trump. I want to thank him for not only his endorsement, that means a lot to me, but I want to thank him for more than that. His support, his advice, his friendship, and his strength. That guy is bulletproof. He's literally bulletproof, guys. Trump is bulletproof. He's got God. Who said that? He's got God. We've got God. We've got God. Somebody said to me the other day, God saved President Trump. And I said, you know what? I think God saved us when you saved President Trump. I really do believe that. So we all love you, President Trump, and I want to thank him. But you know what? He can't do it alone. It's not about one man. It really isn't. He can't do this alone. He needs backup in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be his backup. That's right. If you're awake, and I know President Trump, he's probably awake, and he's probably watching, hopefully not the fake news. President Trump, I've got your 6. I've got it. Arizona, I stand before you today to officially accept your nomination as the Republican candidate for the United States Senate from the great state of Arizona. Woo! Now, I want to thank my opponent, Sheriff Mark Lamb. Actually, I hate to call him my opponent. He's my friend. He's my friend. Mark Lamb is my friend. He's great, you're right. Thank you. Mark Lamb is fantastic. Both Mark and Janelle are my friends. I think of his family as friends, and he's a member of law enforcement. Every day he goes out there and puts it all on the line. Amen. We appreciate you, Mark. He ran a great campaign based on, we never hit below the belt, which is so rare in politics. I'll never forget when we did our debate on May 23rd. Yes, we did, by the way, the media lies. We did a debate on May 23rd. Yeah, you're all going, wait a minute. Yeah, the media lies. And when we were doing this debate, I thought, wow, he had an opportunity to really hit below the belt, to really go dark and deep. And he didn't do it. And I thought, that is a great man. That is a man of great character. We stuck to the issues. We talked about the issues, what was important. And I really want to thank Mark. Mark, I know that we're going to be working together in the future. And I know we both want to save America, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you, Mark. I also want to thank the people who voted for me. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room did. Thank you very much. Thank you. I actually had a friend who I thought was liberal who texted me this morning and said, I voted for you. And I want to be there tonight, but I don't like crowds, so good luck. And it tells you that the tide is changing right now. It's so exciting, so exciting. So thank you, everyone who voted for me. Thank you for my friends who said all 16 members of my family voted for you today. I thank you for that. I thank you if I'm the first Republican you voted for. I thank you if I'm the 50th Republican you voted for. And I also want to talk to the people who didn't vote for me and invite you to join in this amazing America First movement. We invite everybody in, right? Because it's going to take each and every one of us at this moment. We got to come together, people. You know that. I don't need to tell you. Don't start singing. Someone's about ready to start doing a music video over here. We got to come together as Americans. We have watched what has happened over the last 3.5 years, and frankly, we only have 3.5 months to save this country. Who is ready to save this country? This is an all-hands-on-deck moment, okay? All hands on deck. It's going to take people from all walks of life. It's going to take Trump Republicans. I think we got a room full of them here. It's going to take traditional Republicans. I think we got a few. How many traditional Republicans? Great. We love you. It's going to take conservatives, independents, libertarians, even some disaffected Democrats. How many former Democrats, how many people in here have voted Democrat at least once in their life? There we go. We got a few of them in here. Honestly, I don't care if you're 18. Wait a minute. That started a conversation, by the way. Somebody said, I didn't know you voted Democrat before. That's okay. It was 10.5 million Obama voters who gave us President Donald J. Trump in 2016.
All right, it looks like we may have lost Carrie Lake's microphone. We're working on trying to get that back, and as soon as we do, we'll dip back into her speech. But obviously, Carrie Lake in a very good mood. She has been declared the nominee for the Republican side for the race for U.S. Senate. Bram, some of your thoughts on what she's had to say so far?
I wrote down one word at the top here. Can you see it, Caribe? It says, it's the word pivot. And traditionally, in a speech like this, after you've won a Republican primary and now going to face a Democratic opponent, you're going to pivot and try to reach a different group of voters. It might seem to Carrie Lake that she did that this evening, but she didn't really. She's said the same thing she's been saying this entire campaign. Come join us, come join America First, but not really offering anything in return. One of the secrets to winning elections in Arizona is you have to win over independents, pretty fair chunk of them. You have to win over some disaffected members of the other party, Democrats or Republican. Carrie Lake could not do that in 2022, and at least based on the evidence so far, she isn't even trying to do it tonight. This is the moment. A lot of folks are seeing this speech. A lot of folks, Democrat, Republican, Independent. This is the moment you can seize to do that kind of thing. Instead, she's saying the same thing she's been saying the whole campaign, but not really offering anything. Just come join us, come join us. You got to offer something. You got to show them you're different. Certainly that you're different from the person you were back in 2022. Just a couple quick points in response to some of what she said. She said this campaign, we kept it above the belt, all clean. She called Mark Lamb, a law enforcement officer, a coward.
And
at one point.
Mark Lamb, a person who she said is her friend.
It's politics. I get it.
But she also said that she debated him.
She also said she debated him. The media lies. Sorry, it wasn't a debate unless you call a Zoom with Mark Lamb and Carrie Lake and one person asking each of them a question and each answering in turn. There really wasn't any debating involved.
One of the things that caught my ear, and I heard it with former President Trump the other day at a rally. He said, I love my Christians. We have Christians here. And Carrie Lake just said, we have God. How much of a factor is the Christian nationalism going to be as we approach November? And is that a slippery slope for those who believe that the distinction between church and state should not be deteriorated?
So I'm going to say up front, I find this a difficult subject to talk about because I don't want to offend folks in our audience who come to their faith honestly. Don't mingle it with politics, which we've seen a lot of over the last several years. And so I want to make that clear. But at the same time, what we have seen in Republican politics is a clear strain of Christian nationalism. Carrie Lake represents that. Her campaign chairman represents that. I'm not just saying that. That is well documented on social media, in books, and other places. That has become part of Republican politics, a significant part. You're right. You heard Donald Trump saying it. He recognizes that. And I'm going to repeat what I said at the outset. I do not want to offend anybody.
No, and let me say, in asking you that question, it is not coming from a place of denigrating any religion, but it's said, and if you want to hitch your wagon to what the forefathers wrote, it clearly makes a distinction between church and state. So if you're going to live by the good book, if you're going to live by the Constitution, then it's not a buffet line where you can pick and choose the things you want to pick and choose.
No. God, the word God is not in the Constitution.
Right.
The word Christian is not in the Constitution. Freedom of religion, freedom from religion is in the Constitution. And very many mainstream journalists like myself, are having a hard time grappling with that and finding a way to present that to viewers, readers, what have you, in a way that doesn't offend and that doesn't appear to be denigrating religion. Because what we have seen in this country over the last several years is religion invading churches. It's that simple. And you've seen, there are many stories of pastors who've had to walk away because they can't deal with that. They want to talk about their faith, not their politics.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get back to this race in a moment, but you have some other races that you've been following. Sheriff Joe Arpaio is running yet again for mayor.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio is running yet again for mayor of Fountain Hills, his second run in 2 years. He came awfully close the last time to defeating Ginny Dickey. Let's see if we can put those numbers up on the screen here. Now we're getting them up. Joe Arpaio, I think we can say, oops.
Maybe his
faded to black. Not a good sign there. Joe Arpaio is getting crushed in this race for Fountain Hills mayor.
This is it for the sheriff?
This has to be the last hurrah. This is his 4th or 5th election defeat in a row.
And how old is he? 90?
He is 92 years old. There we have the numbers up. It's over. It's over for Joe Arpaio. You know, we wish him well. He had a great night with Donald Trump when Trump was here. He got a big kiss from Donald Trump, didn't he?
Yes.
And that's that was a memory for Joe Arpaio. And this has to be the end when his own hometown is saying, you know what, maybe your time has passed.
Yeah.
So,
all right, we have some other
races. Yeah, can't lose sight of these. Mayors do a lot. I think we have Scottsdale and Mesa. Can we put those up, or maybe not? There we go. Here's Scottsdale. Incumbent Mayor David Ortega with 42% of the vote. Lisa Borowski, 37%. Linda Milhaven, 21%. It appears Ortega and Borowski will go to a runoff in November, since neither one received 50% or more of the vote. And in Mesa, I think we're going to show City of Mesa, one of our largest cities. Scott Smith, former mayor, wanting to return to office. He leads Mark Freeman by just 2 points. That too will be heading to a runoff. That's a closer race than I think most people expected. Scott Smith raised a lot of money for that campaign, and looks like he's headed to a runoff.
All right.
Ram, thank you.
Well, in elections past, of course, we've been talking about snafus at the tabulation center. Paper wouldn't go in, it was too big, it couldn't read the things, people were upset. Tonight, knock wood, things have gone fairly smoothly. Let's go back to 12 News journalist Colleen Sikora, who is at the Maricopa County Tabulation Center. Hey, Colleen.
Yeah, guys. And it is going quite smoothly. That's what we've been able to hear all day. Jennifer Lewer with the Elections Department, Deputy Director of Elections for Communications. Tell me, things are going smoothly.
They are. It's been a long day, but our vote centers have closed up. They're packing up their equipment. Then that equipment, along with the memory cards from the election results that were tabulated today at the vote centers, will come here to our central tabulation, and more work will continue. But it's been a good day, and I have to just thank all of our election workers who've been out there since 5:30 a.m.
And a lot of processes that you guys have to go through at those centers to close those vote centers down, to get those memory cards and all of those late early ballots back here to MCTEC. Have any of those made it back yet?
So we've had a few small sites come in, and we will be uploading results throughout the night. But many of our vote centers, it's going to take them time to break down those machines. We have bipartisan teams so that both political parties are represented and can watch and ensure that everything goes as planned.
Tell me about, obviously, you guys are going to be working late into the night, working on getting everything back here and still working to release more results. But I'd also like to kind of look ahead to this week. Obviously, not everything is going to be tabulated tonight. I know the goal is 95% by Friday. Tell me about what the next few days will look like.
The next few days will really be focused on those ballots that were dropped off today. Getting those, making sure every signature is verified, ensuring that ballots are not damaged in any way, and then we'll begin tabulating those ballots, reporting results. And through Sunday is when people if we give you a call, if you have a problem with your signature, you can come down or cure your signature over the phone. But the process is not over. Election day may have ended, but we're still here hard at work.
Tell me about, obviously, we're expecting some more results drops tonight. What should we expect out of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Those early ballots that have come in on Election Day and the Monday and Sunday and Saturday prior. So we are still waiting to see what the turnout was like. Obviously, voter turnout was lower for in-person voting today, and it's really hard to know how many people dropped off their ballots.
Yeah, 74,000 people that you guys had check in at a vote center today. Preliminary numbers, obviously, but those 74,000 lower than the 94,000 that you guys had anticipated. And like you said, again, it's that how many people decided to wait to drop off that early ballot, and I think that's also a message for folks. You know, if you want those results, then drop it off ahead of time.
Yes, obviously, if you want your results to include your ballot, it needs to come in early. But the important thing is we want everybody to vote who would like to vote. And so obviously want to welcome people on Election Day to drop off their ballots. But maybe begin thinking when it's time for the general to get out ahead of that and get the ballot back early. It really does help us move results along after Election Day.
Perfect. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, still waiting on more results to be dropped here at MCTEC and uploaded online. And as soon as those results come by, I'm sure you guys will be standing by. But for now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Colleen, thanks. The night is young. We're just getting started. Stay right here on 12 News throughout the night. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to special 12 News coverage of Decision 2024. We want to go back to the U.S. Senate race. On the GOP side, Sheriff Mark Lamb has lost tonight. We want to go to 12 News journalist Chase Golightly, who's standing by with the sheriff. Chase?
Mark, that's right. I'm joined right now by Sheriff Mark Lamb once again. Sheriff, the AP has called your race tonight. Your thoughts on it? Have you reached out to Carrie Lake at this point to concede or anything?
We're still spending this time with the folks that have come here to support us. I think we still got a few more districts to call, so I play 9 innings. That's what I do. I don't play 6 innings, I play 9 innings. But I anticipate making a call here pretty soon. So as soon as I get a chance to say goodbye to all these great people that came out to support. And thank you to everybody who voted. Thank you for everybody who supported us along the way. God bless all of you.
And then Carrie Lake, she spoke a little bit ago, and she was talking about how she didn't want to call you an opponent. She considered you a friend and said that she respected what you did. Your thoughts on that, of how Carrie Lake is kind of known for going after other opponents. You didn't do that. You tried, like you said, focus on the issues here. But she's calling you your friend and said that she didn't want to treat you as an opponent. Your thoughts on that?
No, Carrie and I are friends, and we said from the beginning, we had a conversation. This was a race about just getting out there to the people of Arizona, and they've made their decision, and that's why I respect the way that she treated me, and I treated her with the same respect, and we'll continue to be friends.
And kind of going after that, like you said, you go 9 innings. You're not going to make any of the calls soon. What's kind of the plan for the rest of the night? Just to hang out with your constituents and thank them for everything. What's kind of the plan for tonight?
Just hang out with the family, hang out with the constituents, check out some of these other races that I've been very interested in, and I'm going to like all these people and friends with everybody, and it's just been it's been a great time over the last year and a half. Not gonna lie, it's been a lot of work too. I'm probably gonna take a little break tonight and tomorrow.
And then after tonight, any kind of regrets of what you could have done differently in the race?
No regrets at all. Look, I set out to run a race with honor, either whether I won or lost. I was going to run this race with honor, and I wanted to earn the respect of the people of Arizona. And I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find anybody that thinks I didn't run this race the way we wanted to run it, which was with honor. So that's how we set out to do it. I have zero regrets. I'm grateful for a great team. We were outspent, we were outnumbered, and yet we still fought all the way to the end. So we're grateful for the team and all the support here. So
thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. That was Sheriff Mark Lamb, and you heard him mention a little bit. He was saying tonight that the deck was stacked against him. He talked about funding. Carrie Lake raised $10 million. Sheriff Mark Lamb only raised $2 million. He was talking about how polling wasn't in his favor in this race, but going into today, he still said he felt confident that while he wishes he maybe attended a few more events that traveled around the state of Arizona to get people on his side, he says he has no regrets on the situation. Earlier, we also asked him, what does he plan on doing next after this election? Well, he said that he's still going to, be sheriff for the next 6 months. 6 months. His term will end in December, at the end of December. And then he said he's considering possibly going into the private sector, sticking with law enforcement. So a lot to go ahead for Sheriff Mark Lamb. Right now he's going to focus on the law enforcement aspect. And like we also heard today, he's not calling Carrie Lake yet. He's going to wait for that, but he anticipates that call will be made soon. And he did say he would support her once this election is called. The watch party is starting to wrap up now as people are making their way out. It wasn't how they wanted it to go tonight, but again, they knew that the odds were against them, and Sheriff Lamb was a little bit of the underdog. But again, he was saying that he's proud of the race he ran and hopes that was compelled to the residents of Arizona during this election. But right now, we'll go ahead and send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Chase, thank you very much. All right, a little bit earlier, we heard from Colleen Sikora. She was at a tabulation center speaking to officials there. They said that in-person voting was a little lower than past primaries, about 74,000 votes, I think she said. We're going to toss it over to Will Pitts. He has a little bit more perspective on voter registration numbers. Hey, Will, and Bram.
Yeah, exactly. I've got Bram here for a little bit of expertise in this because the numbers are very, very interesting. For 2020, this is where everything was peak. This was peak voter registration. Watch what happens with all these parties when you hit all the way to today. These are brand new numbers. Republicans, 1.4 million. Independents, 1.3 million. But look at this blue line of Democrats from 2020 just drop to 1.1. And Bram, the reason I wanted you in here is because I want to know, is this Biden fatigue? What is causing this to drop so much that they are so far behind independents?
Well, first of all,
the voter rolls are cleaned. So that's a piece of this. I don't know how large a piece of it is. People just fall off the rolls who haven't voted in years, and there are laws that help take care of that. So that's kind of unknown. What jumps out at me is that under Joe Biden, during the course of his administration, Democrats have lost 3 share points of the pie of those 3 registration groups. That's significant because for Democrats to win in this state, you've got to win over independents and Republicans to your side. This tells me they need to win more of them if they're running statewide. And that's a higher hill to climb than they may have had in 2022 and certainly in 2020. So there are lots of questions about this. I've heard theories, nothing solid about what's going on here. But it is surprising you've got a Democratic president in office and your numbers just plummet. Really.
Especially because if you look at this, you've got independents that go up and down, Republicans up, they stay fairly steady. I mean, at one point in 2023, independents were number 1, 1.4 million, but nobody seems to be able to hold on to that. And as you see, Democrats just keep going down and down and down. Of course, that doesn't matter much in the primary, but once you get to the general, this is the group you have to win over. Because if it's the number 2 group in the state, that's the swing between these 2 parties, right?
It is. I've got to say, I'm looking at the Obama years after 2012, and you saw that trough there too, but then a climb. That isn't unusual, but this long decline is unusual, and it's something I'm trying to get to the bottom of because this really matters as we head into November, and it really matters for the Democratic Party and their candidates.
Can I just jump in? We talk about Arizona being a battleground state. Could this be a harbinger of what we're looking at in November?
Well, it is possible that, the independent brand, and these are really people who have declared no party, there's no such thing as an independent party, it's just becoming a more comfortable place for people to go. That could be it. But again, big picture, it is still striking what's going on here. I have not heard a good explanation for this just yet. It might just be, younger people not registering independent. We've had a lot of new people move here in the post-pandemic, right? During the pandemic, Arizona became a destination for lots of folks. Mm-hmm. That may be a comfortable place for them to land. All kinds of theories, but the hard numbers are pretty tough to get past.
The numbers are the numbers.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for your wonderful in-studio analysis.
Sure thing.
All right. Well, our coverage is going to continue at the top of the hour here online. We'll be back with much more of that. It's an interesting night. It's a night where democracy is practiced across the state, and Arizonans have gone out either by mail or in person to make their voices heard.
Yeah, so stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back at 10 o'clock on 12news.com. And of course, you can join us over the air coming up at 11:30. We'll see you soon.